Welcome to the 10th anniversary of REIMAGINE 2021. Presented by Mousebelt. Coming up next.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to REIMAGINE 2021 version 10. So this is our 10th edition anniversary event. We've been doing virtual conference events for the past year now, and our goal is to bring you the latest in innovative founders, entrepreneurs, as well as the latest breaking news as our industry moves at light speed. I'm Roshan Mirajkar. I'll be your host for the event today, and I'm very excited to bring you a new guest here. With me here today, I have Ricky Dodds, who is the head of US operations at the Icon Foundation. And Icon is one of the sponsors as well for REIMAGINE, and we've interviewed Icon multiple times. So, thank you to Icon and the Icon Foundation for all of the great support. And yeah, it's a great ecosystem of partners. Ricky, welcome to the show. And, as I ask everyone, how did you first get into the crypto and blockchain space?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and congrats on 10 renditions of this conference. So good stuff. So a little bit about myself. I got into crypto full time about 3 years ago. But before that, I've been sort of around it for a year and a half or so prior, just investing, reading about projects, going through white papers. And I was doing that while working more traditional finance role. I worked at an investment bank for about 7 years across investment banking, like equity capital markets and equity research, and really got interested in blockchain around the time that JP Morgan was calling Bitcoin a scam in sort of like the 2016 timeframe. I just started to poke around the technology a bit. I heard a lot about distributed ledgers and really got interested in Bitcoin probably during the beginning of 2017, before we had like a huge run up in the price. And then decided to make it sort of a career towards the end of 2017, sort of as the bull market was sort of coming to an end, and into 18, and then was introduced to Min, one of the founders of the project, early in 2018 through a former colleague of mine, Scott Smiley, who also works on the Icon project. So met with Min, discussed sort of the progress, the roles available, and sort of the project's vision over time, and fell in love with it. And here we are today.
Yeah, it was awesome to hear. Great story. Like, you kind of came into it at kind of a speculative time. I mean, I feel like it always is, but not really. There's great builders and protocols like Icon. What are some of the interesting projects or even use cases on Icon that you just find interesting and you think more people should know about?
Yeah, so I think what really attracted me, at least initially, was the idea that there's going to be a lot of like disparate blockchains. Like, there's no sort of one blockchain to rule them all. And I really thought about that a lot, and I believed in that sort of framework. And I think we're kind of seeing that today with this sort of explosion of other sort of layer one platforms and these cross-chain communications, and the idea of interoperability between all of these different networks. So once I heard about Icon and sort of that being the vision for the project longer term, that's what got me hooked. Obviously, there's lots of competitors out there like Cosmos, Polkadot, Thorchain, and these others. But I like the team behind Icon. thought that they were diligent, thought that they were sort of taking the right approach. And also we had some actual users of the technology. So it was sort of vetted by, corporate companies in Korea and elsewhere. So, I got some sense of comfortability there that, the team has the ability to sort of execute and alongside like the vision with interoperability, connecting private, public, data, basically providing a free flow of information longer term. That's sort of the goal we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, the free flow of information is super important, especially in these countries that are more susceptible to censorship. And I think even the free flow of money is pretty important. So we also kind of helped out on the Balanced Network, one of the DeFi applications on Icon. So do you think regionally there's any regions that are more important to you guys just in general, maybe not even to you guys, like in crypto, like how much of the region affects development or even the perception?
Yeah, so I think as you've seen with the recent things going on in Washington, that the U.S. is obviously like very important, and hopefully, regulators don't take such a sort of heavy-handed approach with regards to like regulation in the U.S., particularly around the things that are happening on the innovation side. Obviously, like regulators should do whatever they can to root out like bad actors and form some semblance of a framework that people can rely on. Right now, I think things are sort of fairly vague and maybe a little gray. So I think having the U.S. Supportive of the industry and supportive of the builders and all of the sort of innovation that's going on behind the scenes is sort of number one. And then outside of that, I would say the major sort of players within the crypto ecosystem. Korea, I think in our home market, we hope that regulators there take sort of a similar sort of pragmatic approach to the innovation that's going on in this industry and doesn't sort of stall it out with heavy-handed regulations or burdens on projects or exchanges, etc. So I think those are sort of our two key markets. I think if we were to look at the geographies that interact with a lot of the platforms and protocol or projects built on Icon, you would see a heavy sort of skew towards those two. And then outside of that, we're making sort of inroads in Europe and also Australia and New Zealand and those sorts of areas. We have a lot of teams and interest there as well. So it's a global project. We now have individuals working on the project in I think 12 different locations. So we're fully distributed. Remote work first. So, we're taking the approach that, we're location agnostic, but we want to sort of play within the rules within, our own, regulatory environments.
Yeah, I think that's definitely well said. And that's why I'm excited to speak to you here today as well, because a platform like Icon, although it's global, where you are regionally can have different challenges. And I know the community is super important to a protocol like Icon. Recently, I think you guys have been making some new key hires. And before we go into any updates, tell us more about, how important the people are to you and like what types of roles have you guys been expanding and hiring to?
Yeah, so I think the community is number one. And I need to get out there more on Twitter and engage because I do love the community. I think we have a devout following, very supportive of all the projects that are coming on board to Icon. I would call them almost like power users within our community. So what we've built over the past 3-4 years has been a very solid foundation. So looking forward to seeing that grow. And then just maybe just a quick anecdote there. If you were to look at some of the stats out of Balance, the DeFi project that you mentioned earlier, you could see the amount of interest just by looking at a handful of the proposals, network proposals that have gone on that platform. You have nearly 1,200 voters on simple sort of adjustments to the protocol parameters. So we have like a very strong community that's engaged. And if you were to compare that to like a top tier sort of Ethereum project, you would see that, Icon's participation and governance dwarfs those. So we have something strong here. It's just a matter of sort of building that out further. And that's what we've, we're hoping to do with some new hires. So good segue into that question. So we have hired 2 new people to sort of help on the community communications and marketing side. One has a very strong background in digital marketing, and then the other is going to do a lot of sort of content writing and interactions with the community. So the pair of them will be, I think, vital to the growth and success of the platform, particularly, if you were to look at the backdrop of what, Icon's hoping to do over the next sort of 3 to 12 months.
Yeah, exactly. Apart from just the technology, it's very important to have people in business, and communications is big as well. I really hope more blockchain networks can be more interoperable. And kind of on that note, if you want to tell us a little bit about the ICE project, ICE 2.0, kind of the evolution of Icon. What can people expect, and why is this even being launched at this point in time?
Yeah, so I think we had a couple options with ICE versus like building EVM compatibility natively into sort of Icon 2.0. And I think ICE was just sort of the simplest approach, and it allowed us to execute more, speedily with the developer resources that we had available. And it allows us to grow our ecosystem. So we're going to be engaging with a number of core development teams and business teams to help grow and expand the ICE blockchain. I think there'll be some news on that front very soon. And then, I think the key sort of takeaway there is, as well as that we will have EVM compatibility near term. So instead of waiting, maybe a year or so to build it natively, and maybe even longer than that, given how the development process works, we'll now have it within 1 to 2 months. So the sort of speed to market is important in this industry, and paired with the fact that we'll be able to onboard new developer teams very quickly is sort of the most attractive piece of ICE to me.
Definitely, developers are important and kind of hard to find. But also going back to the governance aspect, or even cross-chain. So why do you think interoperability and cross-chain is so important right now? Like, what kind of world do you envision, just in general, blockchain networks fitting into?
Yeah, so I think if you were to look through some posts that we put out maybe a couple years back, 2.5 years back, talking about sort of blockchains as digital nations, I think is the name of the post. But basically the overall takeaway there was, we're of the viewpoint that, these blockchains are sort of their own entities, right? Like, they're effectively governed by a community that comes to some sort of consensus about sort of the rules and the way that things operate. And we think that, just given humans, we're all different. We all have sort of different values, different things that we place higher than others, and we see the same thing with blockchain. So maybe decentralization is not the most important facet of a blockchain to some. Instead, it's speed, or instant finality, or other sort of things that you can sort of take away there. So each blockchain will sort of have different trade-offs, not only on the technical side and sort of the distribution side, but also with regards to how people are incentivized to use it. So we think that this sort of proliferation of different ecosystem is going to continue to grow. We've seen that, you can kind of take like a number of projects this year as an example, like Polygon, for example, really flew this year because of its ability to latch onto the Ethereum ecosystem and provide a better experience for the core ETH community. and it's seen significant growth because of that. I think we'll see that more and more as different networks provide additional benefits to other networks by either providing like some sort of niche technology improvement, or like you said, interoperability. So, allowing things to be composable with one another, allowing, applications that run on, one network to utilize the community from another network, and sort of vice versa. That's sort of where we see this, this space going, and we hope to be a big part of that.
Yeah, and that ideology is so important for the next generation of builders and companies that want to build. Like, I don't think you can just service your own chain and get very far, or you get to a stifling point. But I think there's another interesting and exciting piece of news. The Icon Foundation recently partnered with Wintermute, and I think, to help enhance their cross-chain and liquidity providing. And I think Wintermute recently raised about $20 million, I think, from Pantera Capital. So can you talk a little bit about, like, what does this kind of mean for the Icon Foundation, and what can we expect, like, even your future or current partners you work with?
Yeah, so obviously engaging with like a top tier market maker and liquidity provider is something that is necessary for a lot of large projects within the space. Market making in a traditional sense is something that is very sort of widely known and done in traditional markets. In the crypto space, there are a lot of leading players, and I would say Wintermute is right up there near the top. So we're really excited about the partnership, and we're really excited about them being able to engage with exchange partners, providing liquidity near spot, and being able to also integrate into our DeFi projects. So we have Balanced already out there in the wild with 150 million in TVL. We have Ohm that's sort of on sitting on Go almost at this point. So and then we have Equality, Craft Network, and a couple other projects in the works that are going to be launching in the next, let's call it 1 to 3 months. So having a sort of institutional liquidity provider to be involved in those launches, I think is going to be very, very great for not only like the user experience and the accessibility, but also for the branding side of these projects. So I think having a strong partner like Wintermute is going to be something that's needed to sort of bolster not only liquidity, but also the sort of reputational side of these projects that we're bringing on online very soon.
Yeah, I think that was a great explanation, even for the people watching this, to understand, like, in the crypto and DeFi world, there's all these other metrics that are super important. Like you said, we don't have the traditional market makers or like a Goldman Sachs to just provide all these funds. What are the metrics you specifically look for either new startups building on Icon, or just in general? What are like 2 to 3 of your metrics for evaluating a successful project?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost is probably like a good project lead. You want to invest in like strong founders, people who sort of think out of the box and are dedicated and hungry and are talented. Like, you just want to invest in talented people, and I think all the other things sort of fall by the wayside a bit as long as you have a talented individual who's sort of leading the project. And I think you could look at Balance, for example. Like, I think Scott is one of the hungriest guys in the space. And I think its success is because he is so driven to make it successful. So, that's a good example of like someone we would be willing to invest capital in. And we have a lot of those people within the Icon community. And, kind of a segue into like what the plans are forward. Like, we're looking to continue to invest in the community and invest in sort of hiring within the community, or putting people in place to launch their own projects. So, we want to provide this sort of avenue for folks who have this itch to be a part of the team, or to work on their own project, or even help support other projects that are already sort of in the market. So, we want to be aggressive, like you mentioned earlier. Like it's hard to find developer talent, but we like to, when we do find it, like we like to make fast decisions and move pretty quickly. And we like to grow sort of development talent in-house and then bring them on board. I mean, to the extent they're interested. So that's one of the focuses for the remainder of the year, and we're looking to sort of grow very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everyone's looking for development talent, and even I like how much emphasis you're putting on like the importance of hiring the right people, because these protocols are decentralized, but behind them there's still like people and operators, and especially your role as well, like managing your whole team here in the US. And I also wanted to ask you, kind of coming from your background as well, do you think, what do you think is the future of custody as well? Like on Icon, there's a lot of people doing self-custody, people being in, running nodes as well, like kind of helping to decentralize the network. So how is that different, and what are the benefits compared to traditionally where you have JP Morgan or like these large, investment banks that are just custodying like all of the world's assets, with or without us asking?
Yeah. And I think it's a good question. It's like, it's probably one of the biggest hurdles, I think, for mainstream adoption, just this idea of like self-custody, and how do we make that, simple enough for like the average user. And I guess the counterpoint there is like, do we want to make it simple enough for the average user? Because then you can, potentially, cause mistakes or whatever. So you want someone to have, adequate knowledge of sort of what they're dealing with. So there's a big difficulty, I think, on the user experience side and onboarding like the Main Street person. That being said, I think there are a lot of improvements that are ongoing in that space. A lot of wallets that I use these days are very smooth, feel very much like a fintech application. There's a lot of things that we're doing internally or with partners on this front. We'll be launching Bridge Pay very soon. It's actually, I would call it in like a beta phase now. You can go on and mint US dollars on Icon, or a digital dollar on Icon through Stably, our partner. So, we're trying to smoothen that user flow. So like you mentioned like a regulated partner. So, Bridge Pay, you deposit your dollars, and through our partner Stably, those dollars reside in a trust account, and are sort of secure and under sort of the regulatory regime that manages a trust. And you have some sort of semblance of safety, right? Like that your digital dollar is backed one-to-one with a US dollar. So there's going to be that approach, and then there's the approach that you kind of mentioned is like you're kind of interacting with your own wallet, and you're storing your capital in maybe a smart contract in order to either like provide liquidity or earn some yield, or maybe you're taking out a loan with your capital by providing it as collateral. So there's a lot of different sort of ways that you can go about it. I think that there'll be like a hybrid approach. I think there's still people around me that probably keep money in a safe versus like keeping it in a bank. Or keep value in a safe rather. So I think there will be some form of like self-custody and some form of third-party custody. It's just a matter of probably preference, and then I think the probably the user's own sort of comfortability interacting with the space.
For sure, yeah. It definitely is a good point that self-custody, I don't want to say it's not a good thing, but sometimes it's like it's just more secure for the majority of people, I would say, still to use like a third-party custody like Coinbase or something like that. But again, it depends on what you want to do. For example, if you want to use a lot of the applications on Icon, you actually need a wallet and you need to go through all that process, which I think is also important, kind of the fundamentals and frameworks of DeFi. And I know even you guys are, you have a lot of updates like we covered with, ICE 2.0 kind of. But, I've also read some news that you guys are launching like parachains and, more partners in the BTP ecosystem. So can you kind of talk about, I think you guys are also expanding or being interoperable with the Binance Smart Chain network, right? So what do you think will be kind of the result of kind of launching these parachains or being interoperable with other chains? Like, do you think DeFi users will just easily go to another ecosystem and it'll be cross promotional, like beneficial for both?
Yeah, so I think that is the goal, right? Like, I think we saw with like last year's sort of DeFi summer, this whole idea of like, obviously like yield farming really exploded. And you saw this idea of like wrapped assets utilized on, Ethereum applications. So you had wrapped Bitcoin, you had like REN BTC and these other sort of wrapping solutions that were provided for users to basically leverage their Bitcoin to earn like a yield on it, right? Each of those has sort of their own sort of trade-offs, but we think what we're building with BTP is going to be the best wrapping solution for individuals who want to utilize their tokens to take advantage of opportunities on other networks, be it like maybe higher yields or more incentives or whatever it may be. Maybe it's just a better community that they maybe have latched onto, but want to keep sort of the underlying exposure to another network. So I think, what we're building is what we hope is the best solution on that front. And then, I think as the next sort of phase of, the development of BTP's capabilities is, all right, so this works for value transfer. You can, put ICX on Polkadot and vice versa. You put Polkadot on Harmony and vice versa, utilizing BTP. But what about if you can put data from Icon on Polkadot, or what about if you can put NFTs on Polkadot from Icon, or vice versa? So like the overall architecture of BTP is scalable to not only provide this sort of value transfer, which I think people are very comfortable with now. Asset bridging has been sort of around and sort of tested. I think for product market fit, like it's there. But what's sort of the next growth avenue that we can sort of pursue? And I think that's something we're going to spend a lot of time on over the next sort of 6 months or back half of this year.
I love that thought for all of our viewers and even me to ponder, like what you specifically said about transferring data from one chain or another, because it seems like for things related to oracles, a lot of the companies use the same oracles, and I would say it's really needed, this collaboration between teams as well to make these chains happen. But also going back to what you said about wrapped assets, can you sort of explain like what are the benefits of wrapping tokens, and is that the same as synthetic assets? Because I know there's synthetic assets that for example, track the price of something, but you're talking about kind of wrapping the value and how people like wrap their Bitcoin and put it on the Ethereum network. Like, what do you think will be the future of that? And maybe just explain for our viewers, like, yeah, what's the benefits of wrapping and like, what do you even mean by that?
Yeah, so like I'll give an example with Bitcoin, for example. There's a couple of sort of major players in the Bitcoin wrapping. I think one is Thorchain, which I think is probably still down. I'm not sure where they stand on their sort of relaunching of the platform, but they were a big proponent of sort of providing access to BTC. They say that it's not wrapped, but it's basically put into a contract, or like almost like a multi-sig, more complex than that. And but they allow for sort of native BTC to be utilized for yield. You provide your BTC and pair that with Rune, and you can earn a yield as a liquidity provider. And it's very attractive because you keep sort of your your native BTC that's locked, and you pair that with your Rune, and you can earn very attractive yields on an asset that you want underlying exposure to. The same thing, or fairly comparable technology would be like RIN. So RIN uses many effectively like validators to you send your BTC into like a RIN, let's just call it a RIN contract, and it's validated, and you can mint RIN BTC, which you can utilize for other applications that provide maybe it's providing liquidity for a cross-chain sort of DEX, or maybe it's for like a Uniswap pair, and you can earn like liquidity and fees based on the assets that you hold. So basically, you're taking your BTC and you're adding additional upside from your BTC while maintaining the directional sort of bet on BTC longer term. So it allows you to basically juice up your potential return. Obviously, there's like risk involved with that. You got to trust either like Thorchain or you got to trust like RIN as the sort of underlying technology that backs it. But you have a potential to increase your investment hundreds of percents, at least during like the DeFi summer of last year. Like that was definitely within reason. And then you have other solutions like BitGo that has I guess it's maybe Galaxy now, but they have a wrapping solution that's more custodial, and it's actually like a multi-sig that has a number of members, and basically you send your BTC to BitGo, and it's like multi-sig setup, and with that you can mint wrapped BTC, which you can also use for the same sort of purpose. So mainly people are using wrapping services to leverage incentives on other platforms. So think about like the idea of just like trading value, and I think that there's like arbitrage opportunities for more sophisticated sort of participants in this market, and I think that's one of the main uses. And you can see if you follow like Alameda's sort of wallets, you can sort of see that they're one of the larger players in this space, and trying to sort of leverage opportunities on the incentive side. So, and incentives, I think, still like very much drive narratives, very much drive activity, and I think providing an avenue for a number of projects to utilize their tokens for this increased incentives, is a way to sort of bootstrap interest in these protocols. And I think once you get people interested, then at that point it's kind of like, how do we maintain the interest, and then also convert these new participants in these different ecosystems into, I guess, like a higher order participant in the ecosystem. So how do we convert like someone, a casual sort of user who wants to earn maybe like 10-20% on their yield or on their native token, and wrap that token into another asset? How do we convert them into an actual sort of user of the native platform? Like, how do we maybe up tier them into like a governance participant, or maybe into like a contributor, or someone who is a thought leader within the ecosystem? So I think you use incentives to maybe like interest those folks, at least in the near term, and then you try to sort of build a pipeline of folks who you can sort of up tier into like core contributors in the network, and then eventually those core contributors become the contributors of the network, and then those who actually built it, or like with the first contributors or the initial contributors, can sort of like fade into the background, and then you have this sort of new fully decentralized, fully distributed DAO. And that's, I think, the goal of all these projects, and hopefully we'll get there very soon. I think you've seen like some good steps from projects that have come before us, like MakerDAO, I think, has done a good job of this. So we're hoping that all the projects on Icon and Icon specifically can get to that point.
Yeah, thank you for that great explanation. Actually, I think I learned something as well. It just had me thinking like maybe some of these projects should also check in the treasury, what starts to happen if people are wrapping one token and locking it up in another treasury. So it's kind of like, what are the risks of that? It's kind of like if you hold Bitcoin, it's a different risk. If you wrap your Bitcoin, now it's on Ethereum, you have like two different, suddenly your risk also compounds, but totally that's part of the incentive of the higher returns. And I also think it could be interesting for the space, as traditionally we only have like one type of asset. It might just be like gold or US dollars. So here you could have maybe a basket of different assets. Yeah, thank you for that explanation. I think my last question for you is, tell us where we are on the Icon roadmap, and what we can expect in the next couple of months or even the year.
Yeah, so I think as of the last tech roadmap update, you were 67% complete with the migration of Icon 2.0. I don't have an updated number for anyone on that. Sorry about that. But I do think that we're making like good progress there, and we're very hopeful that we'll be able to launch Icon 2.0 successfully in the short term. So stay tuned for more updates on that front. But everything is going very smoothly, and we're optimistic that we'll hit some targets there, and the community will be excited about it. On the Icon 2.0 front, so we actually we have a testnet up. We have nodes running currently. We are in the process of basically defining the launch. So I think that will come maybe in tandem with Icon 2.0 or shortly thereafter. So ICE will be in the pipeline very soon. So another sort of exciting opportunity for Icon holders and Icon enthusiasts to sort of get involved with maybe even the ETH ecosystem, and obviously the Polkadot ecosystem as well. So we have that. And then with BTP, so you mentioned a number of our partners. So we're continually having conversations with potentially new partners. We have calls this week with new partners. So we're excited. We're optimistic that we'll have some more teams to onboard into the BTP ecosystem before it launches. And we're making good progress on sort of the ones we have already in the pipeline. So, Polkadot, Binance Smart Chain, and these others, we're making very good progress there. And we hope to have at least one or two of those launched very shortly after Icon 2.0. So, and with that, we have some cool things that are sort of going on in the background that the community really hasn't seen. Like we put together like a BTP dashboard that will track all the activity cross chain. So you'll be able to look live into seeing how much Polkadot is on Icon and sort of Icon on Polkadot, and throughout all of the ecosystem, which is I guess 5 strong now. So I think it's exciting time to be within the Icon ecosystem. Like I said, we're hiring, we're looking to grow, and that's just sort of like the core sort of group. And then you have the community group, which is growing as well. And there's a number of projects that are sort of in the pipeline with that. So there's a lot of things to be excited for, and we're really excited as we look at the back of 2021. Despite the fact that everyone is sort of still cooped up in their homes with the Delta variant, like everyone's sort of still pushing really hard, and we're hoping to achieve the goals that we set out at the beginning of the year. And I think we're in good shape to actually do that.
Yeah, it's always a great sign when you see a project with great partners, great community. And personally, I love analytics, so I'm a big fan of seeing how that dashboard rolls out. But thanks for your time, Ricky here, and wishing you guys the best of luck. And lastly, just tell us how we can connect with you or any helpful Icon links for the project. But yeah, it was great having you here at Reimagine.
Yeah, thanks.